What's up YouTube? Lad Ladderson here today, working on my hot rod again. These are radius arms. They replaced the old wishbones in the 60s or 70s. And it gives you more adjustment to your axle. Not your camber, but the degree at which the axle is tilted backwards, the caster. So you can adjust the forward, top and below, and the back you can push forward and rear. These are great, but they don't work for me because they're too long. These are 27-inch radius arms, hairpins they call them, from Speedway. I just need them to be shorter. Typically people will just push the front axle out in front of the actual horns and do what they call a suicide mount. And that allows you to mount these forward on the frame rails. But because I'm keeping a standard axle location and I'm channeling the body, these would have to mount below the frame rail, below the body. And that's not something I'm willing to do. So I'm going to shorten them. I've already done that to the passenger side. I just cut them in the rear portion and cut about 7.5 inches out of each side. And then made a V valley to fill with the weld. And it also has plug welds, 2 on the outside, and then 4 on the inside. That way I can attach it to the frame rail and keep my axle in a standard position. So I started by removing the hardware that holds the hairpins to the front axle. Once I've got the hairpin out, I'm going to take it over to my workbench and we're going to do some cutting. So those 2 portions have to go. I'm keeping them because they're threaded on the end and I don't have a tap and die set that's that large. So I'm going to cut them off and take about 7 inches out of the middle. And now I'm grinding that 45-degree angle on the surface to create that valley for the weld to fill. On both ends, as well as the thread ends that are going back on. Taking the portion out, the distance you want to subtract. Using my body to block the sparks from flying on the 54 Ford behind me. Beveling that edge to the forward pieces as well to create that valley for the weld. Now I'm drilling the holes for the plug welds. What I didn't mention earlier is there's a solid steel rod. Put a 4-inch section in there, so that's 2 inches on each side of the joining of the 2 pieces. That's just a sense of security for me. So I know that if it does, if that weld does weaken, it's still supported by the solid rod that's inside the tubing. And the same thing to the rear portion of the hairpin. Okay, and now I use my L-shaped bracket again, angle iron. It creates a valley where you can get the 2 pieces level. So I clamp them down in there. Tack one side, then you can flip it. Because it's the angle iron, you can flip that tack directly into the 90-degree bend of the angle iron. And then you want to turn the welder up to 10 and hit the plugs. There was practically no warping with this method, so that's what I was going for. Here I am hammering that 4-inch
steel rod, and you can see how it lines up with two holes for the plug welds. Now, some mathematicians out there in the audience might realize that this is going to shorten the distance where it meets the axle, the two open ends. That's true, but it's very minuscule, and there's still some flex in the bars, so you're able to pull the bars apart to get them into the bat wing that's on the axle. Once you've got the saw welded up, you're going to grind it down and finish it.
So that's it. Now that you've seen the process, the last thing you want to do is, if you're mounting this type to the body or to the frame, you need to have a section. That one's just a 1/4 inch, where the joint can sit on a surface that doesn't make contact with the frame. And that'll allow the joint to move freely. So if you didn't have that, it'd be pressed up tight against the frame and it wouldn't rotate freely. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and click like. If you like my channel, hit subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. This is Ladd Ladderson. Thanks for watching.